The final video of Pool B, 1 week out from the World Cup. We're going to be taking you through Scotland and Italy here, looking at their teams, looking at the X factors, looking at how they're going to go in the opening 3 rounds. Miles, I'm going to jump right in here and go straight to Scotland first. I'm just going to grab that squad here. Any initial feelings on this squad in terms of what you like, what you don't like, how you feel they're going to go with?
The Brave Hearts, as they're called. Look, I think they've picked a bunch of guys with a lot of lower level experience at NRL level in terms of them not playing actual NRL, but playing, being in the systems of, the Panthers, the Dogs and the Parramatta Eels as well as a bunch of guys who have a lot of Super League experience. It's one of those teams where you just don't know what they're capable of because of the no names. I think one of the biggest omissions from this team has got to be Campbell Graham, because he was in contention to be selected for this team. But old Mal, the thief, Mal Meninga, he's stolen him from Scotland and made him play for Australia. Well, not made him,
Mal hates the international game, bro. Mal was out there complaining about, players choosing to represent Tonga or Samoa. He's talking about origin rules should be more restrictive as well. The man hates the international game. He wants a cakewalk for Australia, and I get that. You got to represent, but the more players, I'm cheering for Australia hard, but the more players who go and play for these other nations, the better the World Cup is. Campbell Graham, get Campbell Graham and UNH on the same edge together. That's a bit of experience there. You got Kane Lynette there too, who's played NRL as well.
Yeah.
That's some NRL experience. Yeah, your boy. But they could play anyway. Campbell Graham probably plays fullback on this team, actually. I don't know if he can even play fullback, but you just need to get the ball in his hands as much as you could. Yeah, I don't know. They've got a lot of. I'm looking at here. The French clubs in particular are pretty well represented in some of these lower tier. Toulouse sort of pops up there. They're pretty well represented.
Yeah,
they could come
there's
in.
There's a bunch of guys as well in there that Davey Dixon and Dale Ferguson, as well as Callum Gann and Alex Walker, that play in the lower level of Super League. So Super League's reserve grade side. So with the Super League, the way it works is you can get relegated, much like the EPL. And the London Broncos are part of that league, and so are the Dewsbury Rams. So I think, it's just picking the guys that were available to them, which is unfortunate because, Scotland's such a proud country when it comes to, sport and digging in and being, a bit larger than life. To have them, have such a small pool of players to pick from, it's tough. But it's good to see that my old accountant, the Kane Lynette, is in there. He's good. He's got a soft spot for Kane Lynette. He nearly ruined my life in 2015, but he's kept it. He kept it going.
Mate, he was a big part of the reason why you guys got there. Look, I agree with you. Scotland, that's a big X factor for them. Do they come in? Do they watch Braveheart 37 times before the first game? Realize they're outmatched and then just come up, fuck shit up anyway. Is that what we see? The experienced guys they have, you're gonna have to scheme UNH into the game as much as you can. Not get him doing too much defense. Just give him a lot of ball, run it hard, offload. I mean, for them, I don't see them competing with obviously Australia, but I don't really see them competing with Fiji. I think the game that they could win would be Italy. Italy's got a bit more than them, so they're going to have to really turn it up. That'll be the game they'll be rooting for. They're going to have a lot of fans, though, in the stadium.
Oh, yeah.
One thing, those fans are going to come down, just catch the train down from Scotland to England. Fucking how good would it be living in Europe, right? And,
I know.
they'll turn up. They'll pack out that stadium. For predictions, do you reckon? What do you reckon? 0-3, 1-2, 2-1.
Yeah, I just don't see them making any sort of impact on really any team in their group. To be fair, even Italy, I think that they've got too much of a mountain to climb, and it's it's kind of set out for them to make up the numbers, unfortunately. But no. Once they lose, once they lose, they can focus on the next World Cup. Probably should be better for them.
Let's go to Italy then. Look, little segue. We're covering both those teams here. I'm just having a look at this team here. I mean, what are your thoughts? What's your feel? Because obviously you were backing these guys a lot more in Scotland.
I just think that guys like Cooper Johns and especially Nathan Brown have got a bit of a leg to stand on in terms of playing rugby league at the highest level for club. Cooper Johns doesn't really play in that level, but he is in a great system. And Nathan Brown is he can take people's heads off on his day. So, I mean, with this Italy side, it's got to be, a combination of, different players coming together from across all nations. I mean, we see the team list there. There's a bunch of players from Australia and a lot of players that play New South Wales Cup or play Queensland Cup. And then a bunch of guys from the Super League as well. So they've got to come, they've got to gel pretty quickly. But I think you mentioned that this isn't the strongest Italy side that you've potentially seen. Is that right?
Yeah, and we were chatting before. So I went over for the 2013 World Cup and just coincidentally ran into Aiden Guerra and James Tedesco wearing their Italy gear. So now there have been Italy teams that have been stacked. And I think they would have picked Tedesco if he wasn't the best fullback in the comp. Obviously, he's off playing for Australia right now and captaining that team. They had a few other guys they wanted there as well, but Paul Vaughan isn't playing in this World Cup either. You'd love to have him there alongside Nathan Brown. Yeah, I mean, I've heard good things about a few of these young guys. Like I've heard Hodge is pretty good, but he can play. I think Nathan Brown has a real prove-it mentality right now. And actually, that's true of Cooper Johns as well. They're two guys that need to come out and have a good World Cup performance to turn some heads. Because right now, Nathan Brown, he was out of the Eels team for the last 2 months of the year. Came in off the bench for the grand final. Next year, probably gets into the team on the back of losing some players this year. Maybe Madison goes back to an edge, something like that. But he's kind of on the outs. He's 29 years old. This is the last year of his contract, I believe, next year. So he's going to have to really prove it. This is a big chance to. And Cooper Johns has kind of sat at that level where he's, a bit of a reserve there. He's had big games and he's had invisible games. But there have been a few games where he's had, 2 or 3 try assists and sort of steered the team around really well when they've been missing players. But then he's also had those ghost games. So I'll be watching them closely to see if Cooper Johns in particular can step up. And same as we were talking about Lachlan Ilias, it's the same thing. Can these guys take that next step and, stop being the facilitator almost in a very talented spine and just be the guy, right? And Mitch Moses did that for Lebanon years ago and his career has blown up. Can Cooper Johns do that? Can he earn a call from a club who wants a 7? I mean, do you think he will?
I mean, it's unfortunate that his Melbourne contract is now done. So he's basically playing for a contract. And this World Cup, I think, is probably the best chance for him to show that he deserves to at least be on the roster for some NRL club next year. And potentially, Super League. With playing over there, it's going to be very easy to impress some Super League scouts. And I think that might be where he kind of needs to sit for a little bit and play a bit of Super League, kind of like Brodie Croft. I mean, you look at Brodie Croft, the way he's taken to going over there and becoming Man of Steel this year, best player in the Super League.
Good on him.
And he was a former, Melbourne reject, a bit of kind of pushed out, I think, from Melbourne, but it definitely hurt his confidence. Now he's building his way back up to, working back towards NRL because that's his goal.
He was on a rubbish Broncos side there too for a long time.
Yeah.
Like I remember they would lose games really badly and he seemed to be the most emotional about it. So that would have beaten him down because he's a talented player. He's had plenty of games where he's, put together good performances and that kind of thing. And then he has games where he doesn't. And you're right. The Super League thing is probably where he's getting it done. And look, Cooper Johns is plenty good enough to play in the Super League. Like you talk about players, even Albert Kelly, he left for a while. He came back. He's got some injury issues, but he's awesome too. Like, yeah, no, I think that's an interesting angle that you proposed there. I reckon Cooper Johns will want to stay in Australia just because of his family heritage and that kind of thing. There's an extra club entering the comp. No, if I was him, I would have been trying to get to the Dolphins before, they made some signings there.
Yeah.
He could try to make a move to the Dogs, who just desperately need a facilitating 7.
Yeah,
there's a few clubs. Yeah.
Look, I think that there's a couple of guys we're kind of skipping over in terms of playing at the younger level as well. Like, for me, Alec Cicino, who plays for the Panthers, younger levels, he's also a player to watch, as well as guys like Ethan Natoli, played for the Newtown Jets. The Jets.
Have you seen Natoli play much?
For me, going to watch live, it's always a great experience going down to Henson Park. But Ethan really showed this year, and he played on a minor premiership winning team. So he knows how to win, how to go about trying to. He's always all those players, and you got to understand about reserve grade. They're all trying to play out of their skin so that they get selected for the NRL. So they've got the hunger, the desire to be able to be better, and what better place to show it than a World Cup?
Yeah, look, and speaking of that, as a para fan, we got Nathan Brown there, obviously, but we got a few names here sort of popping up on the team list as well. Again, for me, a lot of the time it's, I've seen a few reserve grade games here and there, but a lot of time it's my first exposure to these boys. So if they can put on a good performance here in a World Cup, then they can often get a contract. Like, I think back years ago to Beretta Framo, he came out and just fucked shit up in the World Cup, and his stature in the NRL and Super League and wherever he played was massively inflated because of that. So it's a big tryout. It's a tryout that everyone's watching. It's a tryout where if they can turn up against Australia's a hard one, but Fiji, that's a real pedigree builder. If they can beat Scotland, that's a real pedigree builder. You've got Italy doing better than everyone expects in this World Cup, right?
I think that they make it to the next round. I think they beat Scotland, and I think they get a narrow win over Fiji. I can just see it happening. I just think with Fiji being so far away from home, I think those Pacific nations are actually going to struggle a bit being over in England. It's cold, it's a long way away from family, and family's really important to them. So it's damaging on the psyche, I think, of those Pacific nations. Not so much Australia. I think they're good enough to overcome that, and they've won over there multiple times. It's different for nations like Tonga, Samoa, Fiji, even the Cook Islands, who have also posted a good team, but we'll get that into some other videos. I just think that Italy are going to have a leg up in terms of playing over there and having a lot of players that do play
in those type of conditions. And the fans, yeah. It's a short trip to get across for the World Cup for them. So, they'll be fired up. I reckon they could punch above their weight. Look, I don't have them doing what you're saying. I think they should be able to beat Scotland. I don't think they touch Fiji. I think Sivo could score 18 tries in that game. Like, it's going to be a walkover. But look, we'll see. We've obviously got a bet of a case of beers on that one too. Whether they can beat Fiji or not. Yep, go check out the Fiji video if you want to see that. But look, that's our wrap on Scotland and Italy there. Both have a lot to play for. Both could prove something here. I don't have either making it out of the first round. Miles has Italy making it.
Or the Azzurri. All on the Azzurri, okay?
All over the Azzurri. But if you want to see the other videos, look, we've posted England, Samoa. There's a France and Greece combo video, and Australia and Fiji as well. We'll go into pools C and D. New Zealand is Miles' pick for the tournament. I'm obviously picking Australia, but there's a lot more to talk about there with Tonga and PNG and a few of those other countries as well. So we'll catch you next time.